So what I wanted to do is there are a few students that were having some issues with some coding errors with their website. And I just wanted to go over some of those things that some people were having with. Maybe you guys were having some issues with understanding where all the code went or what it means. So I posted a video yesterday on how to do a quick backup of your Handcraft website. And I did it really slow when I went through my code, so I can kind of show you what it looks like. But also, too, I noticed a couple people had some issues with losing all their work, and that's kind of one thing I really wanted to press today is make sure you're always backing up, copying and pasting code anytime you go in there before you start doing some changes, that you back up everything that you have. What I'll usually do, there's two ways to do it. The way I showed it on the video yesterday is through their own backup process and on Handcraft, which is they create a zip file and then it saves to your computer, and then you have to open it and then find the code. Or if you're just going to be looking on one page at a time, you can just select all, copy all from the Handcraft, and just paste it into a text document. Does that make sense to everybody? Or do you want me to show that how I do it?
Handcraft for me never works, so yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Let me, you know what I should do is let me share my screen so we know where we're at. Let's see here. Share my screen. All right, so can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the index page that was due from last week, and it's really ugly. I did that on purpose. So if you look at it, I mean, it's just basic, which is all that was needed, really. I mean, some people, some students really got into it, and they started positioning the photos and made them real nice, and they made their logos really nice, which is great. I don't want to keep it, but also at the same time, we don't want to get too fancy if we don't need to be. And this class is just making sure that you understand the basic codes, how to create the website, and then how to publish websites, so that you can get something online and you understand the process. The design, how gorgeous it looks and how beautiful it is and how functional it is for a user isn't really part of this class. So don't try to even spend too much time on that when you're thinking about, oh, this is not that looking, or this isn't something that I would normally use. That's not what we're worried about here. So that's my ugly site, right? And this is the code that I was using for that particular site. What I was talking about now, if I wanted to start editing my code for my index page, and if I just start typing away on stuff, what starts happening is this instantly saves. This program instantly saves over what I'm using. So if I start making a whole bunch of crazy stuff going on there, I'm going to screw up what I have that maybe functions. And so what's really important to do is, what I'll do is I will stick my cursor in the Handcart text editor, and then I select Command A, and that collects all of the code. Some people having problems using their mouse on Handcart, and that's not you, that's on them, that's on your computer. This program is a little bit dysfunctional in that way, and sometimes it does not work, but your key strokes do. So your Control A or your Command A will select all the code. And then what you do is you copy all this code, and that is either Command C or Control C. And then what I would do is let me share my other screen. Let me open the text editor. Text. in essence, what I do, or you can even, you know, that I'm thinking about it right now, I can even do it within this old program, is I can go ahead and create a new file, and then I can label it anything I want, backup, index, and then I can just say today's date maybe or something, so I can remember November 1st dot HTML. And then I come over here, Control A, get it all blue. And now I could click Control V to paste it, and that's all my code. And so if I look, see how it's saved right there? I look at it, it's the same exact page. So now I can come back to my index page that I'm ready to update for the assignment this week, and I could completely just accidentally screw everything up here, see? And I'm like, oops, something's not right. And if I try to view it, it's not even trying, it can't even read because some of the code's gone, right? So this has happened a few times for some people, is they accidentally deleted some code and they didn't have the backup. So again, so let's say that was you and I just accidentally deleted, and it's already saved now, so you can't go backwards. So now that I know I made an error, what I can do is go back to my backup file that I did. So that's this right here. I click it. That's all the good code. I Control A or Command A, turn it all blue. Command C or Control C, that's copy. Then I come back to the index page that I'm trying to work on for this week. Then I click Command A, and now I click Command V, and that's all my code. Okay, and so when you Control Copy, when you copy paste, when you copy something on the computer, it will not paste or let go until you click the Control V or Command V. So it's always there. Let's say, I mean, even an hour later, you can come back to your computer and click Control V, and the copied text that you had previously will still be there. And so that's how you can kind of go back and forth with this handcart program and make mistakes, and don't be afraid to make mistakes because you always have a backup. And so again, so let's say tomorrow I want to work on something and everything's great. I'll just do the exact same thing. And let's say I want to create a new file. And so instead of naming it the exact same thing, I'll do this, backup, index. Then I'll say November 2nd, that'd be for tomorrow, .html. And so what I can start doing, now remember I talked to you about the copy and the text, so all I have to do is select all of that, Control V, Control V, there it is. And it has all my code on there, right? So I can keep all these backups on my file, so even like I could go back a few weeks and say, wow, a few assignments ago, I did something that I thought worked and now it's gone. I don't know what happened. And so now you're having an actual, almost like a database of your work that you have access to. And for your assignments, you can have as many pages on this hand card as you want, as long as you know which one's the one that you're working with. And it should be at all times your index.html for your home page. So everything else, even I have a whole bunch of different files up here that I've been experimenting with. And so you always want to know where your backups are, and you always want to only work on one page at a time to update it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I do have a question.
Sure.
Because I know a few weeks ago we were told to export it onto our actual computer. So could we basically take what we saved, like I didn't save anything last week because I knew I really messed it up bad. But could we, like from the week before, just put it back in there and start fresh?
Totally. So I have a video I posted last night, late last night. You might not have seen it. That's okay. That's because it was like at midnight last night. But what I did is I did a backup with, and I'll do it right now. And what I showed on the video is what I'll do right now. And that is I came over here and you click this little gear. And this is to back up your whole site. And on that gear, you come over here and it says export as zip file. You click that and it's gonna download the whole entire project that you have. You can't see it very well on my, there we go. It's going to download the whole entire project. So I open up that file. You can't see that. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to show you my whole desktop. Hold on one second. This is a little funky. Stop sharing and share screen. I'm going to share my whole entire desktop. There you go. Cool. There you go. Get that stuff out of here. Don't need that. Move that out. All right. Okay. So I just downloaded this export as zip file, right? And it automatically opened. This is what downloaded and this is what opened up. So I opened that up and this is all the files that are right here. I'm sorry, in here. All these files are right here. And all my images are right here and those are in there. So everything's all backed up in that zip file. And then from there, yes, exactly. You can go back and if you wanted to start all over again, you go to the file that you wanted to start all over again. Let's say that backup index November 1st was the best one that you remember was working functionally. So you should be able to come in here, look for a backup index November 2nd. There it is. And then you can open it with your text editor, which I use Text Wrangler. And okay, well, that's all we have right there. So there it is right there. I would take, that's not the one. Don't save that one. That one. That was the best one, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah. Let me open that text editor. Here.
Ah,
Yeah, there it is. Okay, so there's all the good code. So then I have Command A, Command C, and then I'd come over here to my hand cart. And I can either come to this index file or come to this one or just create a new file altogether. And I can name it anything I want is restored index.html. Click enter and that saves it. And then I can just click in the editor, Control A. And then since I have this all copied, right? When I click Control V, it's just going to go right into this editor. Click in that editor, Control V. And there it is. And so there's your restore of everything. That's the long way, personally. I don't like doing it that way because maybe once, back up everything just in case because there's a whole bunch of images and stuff like that. But if you're going to be doing like we were doing earlier, where you're in the process of building something, you don't have to keep on going through that whole zip file process. Maybe at the end of the day, everything looks great. Go ahead and download a zipped file of every file and every image that you have in your handcart. That's smart. But if you just want to update another page and another page, doing that over and over again could be just a lot of work and just messy, just more than you need. But yes, so does that answer your question?
Yes, it did.
Yeah, so that works really good. Backing up's really, really important. Another thing, if you have a question, just go ahead and raise your hand or just shout out. Another thing I was noticing this week was the code was really squished. And I wanted to kind of explain that that's not necessarily the best thing to do especially when you're learning a new code is, let's go to, I'm going to go to this index. And I'm going to create a new file.
Please. Like,
That was another thing. Did you see that, what I just did? It wasn't working. It was kind of stuck. And so I just come over here and I do a refresh. Yeah, sometimes that happens. All right. So I still have all my code, the valid code that I like in my clipboard. So I'm going to Control V on that. All right. And I'm going to name this index messy dot HTML. Okay, so what I noticed a lot was something like this. I saw a lot of this. And then a lot of this too. Come down here and maybe this is all correct. I mean, it's still valid code. Getting it all squished like this. But I can't see this very, personally, this drives me nuts because I can't see it. Like if I'm trying to edit something that's all jumbled together like this all still works. Like if I come over here and I click view, it's still the exact same site. It still works, still valid. But it's all jumbled. And so when you're trying to find an error, and like I'm sure you've already noticed that when you're working on your HTML, I mean like a period or a colon instead of a semicolon matters, or space matters, or no space matters. And so when you're trying to find those little baby errors that you should be able to find, it's so hard when it's all jumbled together like this. And so that's another thing I wanted to urge is it's okay in HTML to have spaces, big spaces, because the browser doesn't pick up that space. So in essence, I could do this. If I wanted to clean this up and I wanted to look at, let's say, this area right here, this section, okay, I'm trying to find an error, okay, I can take this, wherever there's brackets, an opening and a closing, okay, I can shift, and then shift, and then even shift, shift. And I could get even crazier like that because if this particular paragraph, let's say this paragraph actually like, I don't know, 7 paragraphs. I can separate those paragraphs as well, as much as I want to. And you will not see that on the web page. Yeah. And it's really easy to find errors. In the professional world, this is not something that is looked upon like, oh, that looks great. They want a nice, neat code. But the opposite is not true either. And in that, they don't want squished code either. So this is a great way to try to find your errors because it does not matter the distance between elements or tags. It does not matter. And that just helps you eliminate those errors. And so if you hand it in your code like this, that's fine if it's that space. I wouldn't advise it because it gets, if you have a big page, it will like eventually get really long, right? So you want to try to condense it when you can, but at the same time, you don't have to squish it all together. Same thing with the styles. Styles are the exact same thing. So you have, here's this content, and it goes into all these H tags, right? I can make it as far away as I want, and it still will style the same. It does not affect it. And so that just helps when you're trying to like see things in a different light. It's opening things up, pull it back, take a look, kind of move around. Does that make sense?
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, does that help at all?
Yes.
Okay. So that's one thing I was looking at. And then let's see what else. Oh, and then another thing I would like to talk to you guys about is to make sure that the style tag is towards the top and right after your head tag. There's a lot of students were placing their styles, not their inline styles, but their block styles. A block style is something that can be separated from the line. That's not styled within the line. They're placing the block styles within the document, let's say like down in here, within the H1 tag or within the P tag. And that's not necessarily, it's not super bad because it'll still look the same, but it's not functional because when you start getting into bigger files and bigger pages, you want to be able to find your styles easily. And the way to do that is to use just one style opening, one style closing, and then within those two style brackets, and opening and close, that's where all of your style goes. That's where all of your style. You shouldn't have style, open, style, and then you shouldn't have a whole bunch of open and closing styles within styles. That's just messy. And it slows down the browser when it tries to read it. For example, like this. So you shouldn't have, I'll just like this. I'm just like this. This is what some students were doing. They were doing, and then they have,
I thought the instructions were telling us to like do that. And that's why when I was following it a few weeks ago, when we had to do our styling, you know, for like the paragraphs and all that, that's why I did that.
I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm not sure that I don't remember seeing that. I don't do a lot of the directions for the content. And so if it was there, that's not correct. So, and it's not wrong either. And that's kind of thing I want to push is this is not wrong to do this.
But it's confusing too.
It's confusing because there's a lot. What happens is it just, when you start getting into a lot of style, well, we'll start talking about this week is you'll have external style sheets where you'll have a whole separate page of styles that the HTML page will link to. And so when you start having all these different style sheets, it can be really confusing if you just have multiple styles within styles. It gets out of hand really fast. So I guess.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
I would like to know like what can be inside of the style. Can have classes, IDs, and what else?
You can have classes, IDs, and you can have the body tag, or you can have the font tags, the H1s and the H2s and stuff like that. When you have an inline style where you're within a page and you're styling something like this is an inline style right here. So you're aligning the text in the section only for that particular section. So that's called an inline. It's within line, this line.
And you only use a div for the inline, or it depends what you're doing? It can be a class.
It can be a class. It depends on what you want to do. You can do a style. You can do an inline style if you want. You can do both. There's a lot of different ways to do HTML. That's the kind of tricky part as well. There's a lot of right ways and there's a lot of wrong ways to do HTML. And it is kind of an experimentation of what you like to do. Some people like to do inline styles a lot more than, let's say, a block style. And that's pretty much, that's going to be a preference. And it depends how big the page is. A small little page isn't going to matter if you do a lot of inline styles. But you start having 5, 6, 7 pages and it updates a lot, and you have maybe a database connected to it, you're going to want to kind of keep everything focused and a little bit more tight with a style sheet and everything, and keeping away from inline styles as much as possible. Because if you have to go and change a whole bunch of things and they're all inline styles, you know, it'll take you 2 hours to go update maybe the color of a text for 20 pages rather than just using one style and section, you know, over and over again. But anyway, getting back to the style sheet. Yeah, so it's not wrong to have this and at this level, but it's just not as functional if you just have an open style and a closing style, and then have all your styles in between those two tags. And so in this case, what all I got to do is just take away this. I'll say delete and then delete this. And then you're good. So you just have an open and close. So it's the same kind of principle. One more. Same kind of principle that they're going to talk about this week about grouping like H1 and H2, H3, or all these H tags together. It's the kind of the same principle. If we wanted to, we don't have to group all of these together. It's just more efficient. And that's kind of the same way with the style. It's more efficient to put everything in one group so you know where they're at. And when we start dealing with external style sheets, sometimes web pages, as you start looking in more web pages, you'll see they'll have multiple style sheets. You know, it's not just one style sheet. They'll have 5 or 6 different style sheets depending on how big the website is. You know, maybe one style sheet will only deal with fonts. One style sheet will only deal with the media. One style sheet maybe only deal with content, because it's so diverse. And so streamlining and getting things as tight as possible helps in the long run. It's hard to see the advantage right now because like, what's the big deal? But when the site's huge and you want to do one change all at the same time, it's very advantageous to have things grouped if they can be. And so that helps. But it's the same principle. Styling in one group or doing a whole bunch of H tags in one group. You don't have to do that, but it just kind of makes sense if you don't want to do something over and over and over again. So, does that make sense?
I think so.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. All right. Any more questions? Anything else?
I won't know until I actually sit down and start messing with it again.
Yeah. That's the thing too. That was the main thing I wanted to talk to everybody and see if they wanted some extra help. How's everyone doing with their errors? Is anyone having problems with finding the errors in their website?
I had 73.
Yeah. Okay. Now, there's a difference between some of those errors too. And so sometimes the errors are just valid. They say they're invalid HTML, you know, and you look at it and you're like, what's wrong? You know, that's okay. Everything's functional.
Because yeah, it was having like the little, the open bracket, and you type in like, here we were doing style, and it was having that red and underline saying how it needed to have it. And I'm like, it's there. What are you talking about? Yeah.
And that has to do with how it's reading Handcraft. And it's having to do with strict HTML rules. And so it's looking at other parts of the page, and there may be another error, and it's causing that system to look at that particular program or that particular code in a different kind of way. And so everything affects something else is most likely what's happening there. And so when you're looking through your errors on that particular that site, yeah, you don't have to get too crazy. If you know it's there and it says make sure that bracket is there and the bracket's there, that's all you got to worry about. The reason there's some of the students had the code was so dysfunctional that I couldn't even see it, and I couldn't even like see the page on the Handcraft website. And so something happened in between them posting and then me looking at it, because remember the Handcraft constantly saves over these different pages. And so I think sometimes it happened is the page was not functioning, and they thought it was because when they handed in it was, but then maybe they did something and made a mistake. So I just kind of wanted to bring that up too, is if it's really bad and it's not functional, that will help you, that website, the W3 site will allow you to see like why isn't that functioning, but at the same time, it can get really like to the point of ridiculousness that it's not that necessarily something that we have to worry about for this class. And so I want to emphasize that as well. Remember, this class is like way, way bottom, like very beginner. All they want to make sure that you know is, you know, the HTML, how you code it, and make sure it looks good, and then how you get it on the Handcraft or post it so it's live online. It's really easy to get down that rabbit hole of trying to make it look a certain way or make it super awesome, and which is fun, it's great, and you can totally do that if you want, but just make sure you're looking at the minimum requirements for each week so you don't spend too much time. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, it's a 1-credit course, right? You know, you don't want to spend too much time because I'm sure you guys got lots of crazy classes out there, and this shouldn't be a crazy class. It should be a fun class. And so if it's turning crazy, if it's getting really difficult, make sure that you're meeting the minimal requirements, because that's all that's needed. And if you're spending too much time, then it says it was allotment. Give a shout out to everybody, me included. Hey, I'm having problems with this particular, you know, assignment. First, go to the forums, the question and answers, because again, everyone's going to learn something if you do that. If it's something just based on you and it's only you and you know it's only you, then yeah, just shoot me an email first. But if you think other people can be helped by your question, I would urge you to go there first, because probably what will end up happening is you'll email me and I'm like, oh, the whole class would be awesome if they see this, and then I'll post maybe a question relative to what the student emailed me about. So if you can do that, that'd be great. But yeah, don't get too worried about being perfect. Because look at this site. That is an ugly site. Look at that thing. You know, that is not pretty, but it's functional.
Right.
Okay, so that's all you have to worry about. Is there anything else?
I actually have a question.
Okay.
It's sort of technical, but with the style side of things, should there be like a specific order we do things, like class, ID, or?
Yeah, they do talk about that. There are elements that have a hierarchy where they talk about this in the Khan Academy this week about.
Oh, okay. I haven't done it yet.
Yeah, no, that's okay. No, it's a good point, because sometimes just moving around, it's a cascading style, and it's like a waterfall. So when the browser reads this code, it starts from the top and it literally does go down. It seems weird, but that's what happens. It starts from the top down. And sometimes it is literally what's next in line that it gets read next. But then, as what they talk about this week, sometimes things have different elements have more priority than other elements. So if something's not working, let's say, man, I know my background is supposed to be pink, and I know that's the right code, but it's not working. It may be that your hierarchy of your style is in front of something else, or you're trying to overwrite something that has a greater value than your section. And they discuss that really well in the Khan. So yeah, if you watch that, that can answer that question. Because they get and they give some great links in the assignment. There's some great links where it'll show you like a little hierarchy, and you can kind of look at that. It'll give you some visual. It's really cool. I liked it.
Awesome, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
You said in the beginning that this week assignment is kind of some things that is missing. Can you help us a little bit about that so we can do
Yes. I don't think we talked about. Oh, let me go to another one. Let me go to my different project. I don't think we talked about external style sheets. Did you guys learn about that yet? I didn't think so, because that's the one I was like, I didn't even talk about that yet. So, okay. So really quick, .css is a style sheet. It stands for, it's a separate text document that has all your styles in it. And so here's the HTML page. So this is the page that is going to be on your assignment this week. So we are talking about the assignment. So give me some slack if I don't know what I'm talking about, because I still have to go over some of the stuff. But what happens is this is your HTML, and then your styles are linked right here. And so you can see it's referencing, the hyperlink reference is positionstyles.css, and that's this file. So if I click on that file, here's all the styles. Okay, this is actually where it gets fun too, is you have a whole style sheet. It's called an external style sheet. And so let's go back to position HTML. So if I view this, this is going to be part of your positioning exercises. This is what the page looks like. The styles for this page is this. And so if you look at content one, there's a red box, there's a green box, there's a yellow box, there's a blue box. And then each activity has a comment. These comments right here don't show up. Anytime you see this in a CSS document, that means it's like invisible text, so you can see it, but nobody else can, so you can make notes. So you can make as many notes as you want to, too. You can copy this maybe and just like say, I'm going to do this. Maybe right here, I'm going to do another one right here and just say, you know, where is it? This is the parent type of activity that is really hard to figure out. Okay, so if I look at that, there's my CSS. If I go to my, I'm sorry, got you. If I go to my HTML and I view that, you can't see that text. That's just a comment. So if you want to make notes within your own style sheet or your HTML, there's different ways to do that so that you can, like here's a comment for the HTML. That's invisible when you see it in the browser. So that's a new way. You can make kind of notes for someone, like if you're working on a whole bunch of web pages with other people, you can say, hey, stick the image right under here, that kind of thing. But going back to the CSS, this is where all the style is going on. And so you have activity 1, activity 2. Now earlier I was talking about separating things out. Here's a good example of when you're going to do that. So here we are again in a styles sheet, and you have kind of, it's still nice, but it's kind of a little cramped. First thing I would do is I would expand this and just push this out a little bit so I can see what's going on. Oops. So I can see what's going on. And that way I can see the code better. That does not in any way change the structure or the styles of the web page. It's still going to look identical. But it's just pulling it out like an accordion, just being able to see everything. But I like to do that, especially when I'm on a hard project. I just spread everything out. One thing too, I'm not sure if everyone knows this. If you accidentally make a mistake on, if you accidentally, is that me making that noise?
It's here, it's the airplane.
Oh, is it airplane? Okay, that's all right, no problem. If I accidentally make a mistake, I'm not sure if anyone knows this, but if oh no, I totally screwed up. You did Control-Z and it'll come back.
I wish I'd known that last week.
Yeah, Control-Z or Command-Z will do one step back. That's very important. So,
Okay.
So that's what's going to happen is you're going to see an external style sheet on this week's lesson where you're going to be doing all the work, and you're not going to even touch the HTML. All this is never going to be touched. You can if you want to play around with it just to see how everything goes, but you will not need to. The assignment for this particular situation is all going to be done through this external style sheet. So like,
is it possible to put spaces along a line, in other words, to indent? Because sometimes I think I've seen that done, and that makes it easier to catch, like dot red one and dot green one, if what's underneath them is indented.
Oh, totally, absolutely. So you can do this, And yeah, I know what you're talking about, like maybe this. So you have all of the, maybe the height and the width together, maybe your background colors all together like that. Is that what you're trying to say?
Something like that.
Yeah, you can totally, or you can even do this, just kind of give it a little space. That's okay. But yeah, you can totally indent it the way you want. I mean, some people, believe it or not, to go the other way, they like it like this. And this just, I don't see how people can function. But that's how they like to code. They see it like this and they're like, oh, that's exactly how I like it. So it still works. It's still functional. I like it just exploded as much as I can. But that's really a really big advantage to understand that you can spread everything out and organize it. When you get into more advanced, like if you guys want to go further with web design, if you go into things like Dreamweaver, they have their code editor. You can have it so you can set up like you were talking and adjust with different kinds of indents. And so it's all super really nice and it looks really like, wow, it's almost like a piece of art because they can get it all so set up so nice. And then it makes it really easy to read because everything's just functioning in a perfect way. Then you can collapse things and more advanced. So that's another thing to think about is, if you want to try to keep your mind straight, it is good to organize it in your own way. Whatever you like. It's important that you have to stick to the standard, but the standards with HTML and CSS are broad when it comes to how it looks. It's the empty space, I should say. The empty spaces are pretty much broad of what you can do, except the exceptions are in between some styles, and you'll learn about that this week as well, is when you're making an argument for a style, if you have a space or no space, that matters. But that's obvious, and you'll see why. What we're just talking about between styles or even between code, between HTML. See, like this is, same thing, just pull that out a little bit. It will not affect how this looks. All that space that has anything to do with this, it doesn't even read that, doesn't even look at that. So when we're dealing, I would say dealing with something this small, it'd be advantageous to pull that all out for you guys, just so you can see everything better and just appreciate the code. Oh, I see what it's doing. I understand what it's doing. It's going here to there, rather than just this big jumbled mess. I don't even know why it's doing that. Why is this happening? That kind of thing. So, any other questions?
Not yet.
Not yet. Let me see. Trying to think. Let's see if there's anything else cool. I would say let's go back. Look at this for a second. Who wants to be a web designer?
I did before this class.
No. What did you want to do? Tell me about what you wanted to do.
I've always played. Well, I used to dabble and play with it back when with Front Page, and then when my husband was going to school, he did Dreamweaver, so I dabbled with that. That's been years and stuff, and then I went back to work full time. And so anyway, long story short, when I saw online what they had to offer for degrees, I was like, I've always wanted to do this. So, but yeah, after last week, it was like, nope, I don't think so. Nope.
Well, try it again.
It's a whole different language. I mean, that's what it is. It's a foreign language.
It is a foreign language, but if you pull everything apart and just spread it apart and just look at it like each element, it helps explain things a little bit better. The reason why I asked about who wants to be a web designer is because there's so many jobs out there. so many opportunities. And if you like doing this, man, there's just, I'm always getting called by headhunters and people call me up. What are you doing? You know, do you want a new job? This kind of thing. And so we're still in the golden age of web designing. And interestingly enough, what's going on right now, there's a new niche market going on right now. I talked about one, and that was the American Disability Act on web design, which is a specialty, and that takes a while to learn all that. That's for people who have handicaps or who have disability, can't read the website, and so you have to set up the website in such a way that they can read it with the screen readers and things like that. Another one is there's HTML legacy sites, like we're doing right now, this exact same stuff, that their pages need to be updated with current content, but nobody works on it. The reason why nobody works on it is because everyone's looking at the new thing, the more advanced features, all the different coding, all the new, you know, content management systems, and the more advanced features of website, where you have millions of websites out there right now that are basic sites, just like what we're working on, that need to be updated. You know, they need some schmo. They go, hey, I need to update this content. No one will do it for me. Market for legacy websites because they don't want to spend $5,000-$10,000 on a brand new website. You know, they want somebody to come in and just fix their content. Fix legacy websites. A great way to get in. Really simple. All this stuff is really simple. I mean, not right now, but it's once you get going with this basic premise, you can understand how easy it would be to go in there and maybe change content for somebody, you know, or change style for somebody. That's what I'm looking for. Another airplane.
Yeah, sorry. I live in Las Vegas and kind of close to the base.
Oh, okay. Wow. Awesome.
Oh, you're in Northtown.
Yes.
I used to live in Nevada. I used to go to Las Vegas a lot.
Yeah, I live in Aliante. It's kind of far from the base.
Not far enough.
Not far enough for the airplanes.
Yeah, I used to live over by Mojave High School, so I know exactly where you're at.
Yeah, I'm in Aliante. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome.
Okay.
All right. So let's see. I don't have anything else to talk about unless somebody else has another question or anything. I wanted to go over those key things. I thought we were going to have more people, so we kind of, you know, buzzed through everyone's questions really quick. So we're kind of done a little early, unless somebody wants to work on something.
I have a question because I don't have handcraft.
Mm-hmm.
So I do mine in the brackets, and then I save in Dropbox, and then I go to AppDog.
Okay.
So for me to see if my work is doing right, I need to update, like, because that would help me. Maybe I can just email it to you because I think this is very peculiar
Okay.
situation. Yeah.
So you need to, because you need to update on the web. Is that what you're talking about? So
Because I work in #1 already.
yeah.
And I don't know if that is correct. And I saw that you could check in the handcraft. I don't know how I would check.
Okay. Yeah. Email that to me and I'll take a look at it and we can see what's going on with that.
Okay.
Another thing, I guess, since I'm just thinking is, who has a Mac? Does anyone have Macs or Windows?
Windows.
You got Windows? Okay, so Windows has,
Yes,
the best thing to use for Windows for text documents is, it's called Note++. Let me find it. And it's a really good text editor. It's free. Note++. Find it here. That's it right there. All right. This little guy right here is a great free text editor. It's kind of the default for all the geeks out there. And it's a great place to do an experiment with your code. It'll highlight the HTML colors. So you know when you're doing something, it'll say, hey, you're missing a bracket. just something. So
Oh, almost like Khan Academy.
yes, totally, exactly. Everybody knows.
Notepad++.
Because yeah, I do okay doing the Khan Academy stuff, and I'm like, yes, I got it. And then I come to do our stuff, and it's like, I don't got it.
But you guys got to get a good badge because, like I said, they're getting rid of handcraft, retiring for obvious reasons. It's a little, it's funky, and so you're definitely in the latter part of dealing with this particular program. But this is really great because you can edit all your stuff. You can copy everything from your hand cart, paste it into your Notepad, and then experiment. And then, like we said into earlier of our meeting, go back in there, create a new page in your hand cart. Create a new page, and then copy and paste from your Notepad into a new page over here, and so you can kind of play around without messing your whole your website up. So that's a really good program. It's like really awesome.
I'm sorry, I need to go. Thanks so much for your time and everything.
All right, thank you.
Yes, bye.
Thanks. That's what I suggest for Windows users. For if you use a Mac, I use the Text Wrangler. That's a free version, and it's just a basic HTML editor that can just go in there. And what I like about the Text Wrangler, and I'm pretty sure Note++ does, is that you can compare documents. So if you have two documents and you're not sure which one is different, you can compare the two. So for example, let's see, let me make another. Let's see, and where's the little guy at? You can compare them somewhere. Anyway, I wasn't collapse to expand all. Somewhere in here, you can compare the two. Compare. Oh, it's in search. Okay, so search. Compare against previous version, or search against two front windows. There we go. So you can have two front windows right here. And I'm pretty sure you can do this with Note++. And you can say, okay, it used to work, now it doesn't. What's the difference? And you can look at the two codes, side by side, and you can see the differences. That really helps, especially when we get towards the end of the class, where we start doing a little bit more designing. You can, when you make a mistake, you can go backwards once. As long as you back everything up like we talked about at the very beginning, then you can go backwards and look at what was different than it is now and why is it. That's a great way to do it. That's a little tidbit, a little gold nugget.
Thank you.
And let's see. Backing up is really important. I want to keep on saying that. Try to back up everything you can when you can, and you'll be fine because you can make as many mistakes as you want, and it gets fun. You don't want this to be too tedious. You want it to be fun. You want to be. There's too many opportunities out there. Really, seriously, there's so many opportunities to be a web designer. So many people need somebody to just manage content. Just go into a document and change the dang color from pink to black or whatever. There's, most people can't do that. And you're talking, you can make $25 to $100 an hour depending on your client. That's easy money. You can do it all remote most of the time, especially these smaller sites. Really, you don't have to go into the office. So I would urge everyone just to keep on pushing and at least learn the basic skills. So that too, and then you can look on the other side so you're not getting ripped off by some college kid coming in and you say, okay, that's going to be $4,000 for something that it only took a couple hours to do. So you at least know what's going on in the background and what needs to be fixed. If you ever have a personal website that's not working correctly or that you want to get updated but you don't know how, so that's important too. Let's see. Any more questions?
Not at the moment.
Okay. If you think of something, email me And if it's really cool, maybe I'll make another little documentary thing or a little tutorial. But yeah, if this works out, maybe I'll do a couple more, especially like after next week. I agree with you. It's going to be a little rough week. So I'll try to jump on that tomorrow and try to figure out what they exactly want and give you guys some hints. And maybe even I'm glad we did this too, because we talked about the external style sheets, and I'll make a post tomorrow about external style sheets, maybe some examples of how they work.
Okay.
That'd be a good walk away from that. So, all right, well, good. I think we're done. Don't you
All right,
think?
well, thank you so much.
All right, good. I hope everyone got something out of it. I did.
Thank you very much.
All right, you guys have a good night.
You too.
All right.
Night.
Bye.